round like a ring, or an orange. You see, start your search was the sound of "Oh, that's me." Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by whispering woods, there lived a boy named Ollie. Ollie had big brown eyes, curly black hair, and a wild imagination. But what made Ollie really special was his ears. He could hear music in the wind, songs in the streams, and rhythm in the raindrops. One foggy morning, Ollie followed the sound of an odd melody coming from deep inside the woods. It wasn't a bird or a flute or anything he'd ever heard before. Curious as ever, he tiptoed through twisty trees and climbed over mossy logs until he reached a clearing. In the middle stood a glowing sign, "Welcome to the Orchestra of Oddities." Floating in the air were instruments of all kinds, some with feathers, some with wings, even one shaped like a glowing octopus. There was a violin made of vines, a trumpet that blew bubbles, and a drum that hopped like a bunny. Ollie blinked. "Are you real?" a soft voice answered. "As real as your dreams, dear boy." From behind the spinning xylophone floated a creature with owl eyes and a long fluffy beard. He wore a vest covered in music notes. "I'm Maestro Ollivander," he said, bowing. "We're in trouble. The O key is missing. Without it, none of our odd instruments can play in tune." Ollie felt a tingle in his toes. "I can help, but what's the O key?" Maestro smiled. "It's a golden note shaped like the letter O. Without it, the orchestra is off." So Ollie began his quest. First, he tiptoed past a snoring oboe tree. Its long wooden branches made sounds like "oh" every time the wind blew. Then he jumped over a bubbling orange juice stream, where orange fish sang underwater opera. Ooh la la! Finally, he reached the octave cavern, a deep echoing cave filled with sound. Each step made a different musical note. At the very back, nestled under a bed of glowing orchids, sat the golden O key. Ollie carefully picked it up. Suddenly, bon! The cave burst into music. The instruments from the forest floated in, dancing and twirling. Maestro Ollivander waved his wand and the Orchestra of Oddities began to play. Beautiful, strange music filled the woods, waking sleepy animals and painting the sky with colorful sound waves. "You've saved our music," Maestro said, "and more importantly, you listened with your heart." Ollie blushed. "I just followed the odd sounds," Maestro chuckled. "Odd sounds often lead to wonderful things. I'm the letter that starts the word play. I help penguins and puppies enjoy their day. I'm full of positivity. Puff and pop, can you guess me before we stop?" Once upon a time, in a soft, sunny place called Petal Prairie, lived a little bunny named Poppy. She had fluffy white fur, big floppy ears, and a bright pink nose that wiggled when she was happy. Every day, Poppy wore her favorite purple vest, and on that vest was a tiny pocket stitched by her grandmother. She always said, "Poppy, this pocket holds something special, but it only works when the world needs it most." One morning, Poppy bounced outside and noticed something strange. The flowers drooped, the bees buzzed very slowly. Even the butterflies looked sad. The prairie didn't feel cheerful anymore. Poppy tried hopping high in the air. She sang her silliest song, but nothing seemed to work. So she sat under the biggest petal tree and gave a little sigh. Just then, her paw brushed against her tiny vest pocket and something sparkled. She peeked inside and saw a tiny scroll. It read, "Inside this pocket lies a power of positivity, but only when shared." Poppy's eyes grew wide. She stood up tall and whispered to a little sunflower, "You're strong." The sunflower straightened up and beamed. She skipped over to a sleepy bee and said, "You're important." The bee smiled and flew a little faster. Everywhere she went, Poppy shared kind, happy words. "You are brave. You are special. You are loved." And something magical began to happen. The flowers lifted their heads. The air sparkled. The clouds began to drift away. Poppy even helped a grumpy hedgehog find his favorite hat. And she made the dandelions laugh with her twisty, giggly dance. Every time she shared kindness, her pocket shimmered brighter and brighter. Then pop! The pocket burst with sparkly pink and gold light. Little glittery stars floated out and drifted all across Petal Prairie. The prairie was smiling again. Birds chirped. Children played. The flowers waved in the wind. Poppy curled up on a patch of moss, feeling warm and proud. Just before she fell asleep, the pocket whispered softly, "The best kind of magic is the one you share." And with a little yawn and a happy heart, Poppy smiled and dreamed of more ways to help tomorrow. I'm a letter that makes you think of queens, of quacking ducks and quiet scenes. I'm quite a quirky one. It's true, can you guess me? I start with a Q. In a village full of giggles, bells, barking dogs, and bouncing bulls, there lived a squirrel named Quincy. Quincy had soft brown fur, tiny round glasses, and a fuzzy purple satchel he always carried with him. But Quincy wasn't like the other animals in the village. While others loved noise and fun, Quincy loved quiet. He would often sit by the river, hoping to hear just the soft rustle of the leaves or the plop of a fish jumping. One day, Quincy woke up to a giant clang. Someone was building a roller coaster in the center of the village square. "Oh, acorns," he whispered, covering his ears with his paws. He opened his satchel and pulled out his favorite book, The Ancient Quiet Places of the Forest. On the last page, there was a map marked Q-Zone, the quietest spot in the forest. "Oh yes," Quincy smiled. "Time for a quest." As Quincy tiptoed past the noisy playground, he met a chatty crow named Carla. "Where ya headed, Quincy?" Carla squawked. "To find the Q-Zone," he replied. "I've heard of it," said Carla, "but it's guarded by a grumpy owl who only speaks in riddles." Quincy gulped. "Thanks, Carla. Wish me luck." Through whispering meadows and humming wind, Quincy wandered until he saw a tall, twisty tree. Sitting in the middle was a giant gray owl with glowing golden eyes. "Who goes there?" the owl called. "It's Quincy. I seek the Q-Zone. To enter, answer me this." The owl hooted. "I'm something you hear when nothing is loud. I come when you're far from the crowd. I'm soft as a feather and light as the air. What am I? Quincy closed his eyes. He smiled. Silence. The owl blinked, then slowly nodded. You may pass. Beyond the tree was a tiny grove filled with mossy stones, glowing mushrooms, and a little bench by a bubbling spring. Quincy sat down and took the deepest breath. The only sound was a wind gently rustling the leaves. He felt peaceful, calm, and full of joy. Suddenly, he heard little footsteps. It was Carla the crow, and behind her, a bunny, a badger, even a little turtle. We wanted to see what quiet felt like, Carla whispered. And so, one by one, everyone sat together in the queue zone, smiling quietly. They didn't need noise to have fun, just the joy of being still, together. And Quincy? He beamed. This was his kind of party. I shimmer and shine after rain goes away, in colors so bright. I light up the day. I start with an R and stretch through the sky. What am I? Can you tell me why? Answer. Rainbow Rosie was a raccoon with shiny gray fur, round blue glasses, and a bright red raincoat she wore no matter the weather. She lived at the edge of a magical forest where it rained every afternoon and always left a rainbow behind. But Rosie didn't just look at rainbows. Oh no, she collected them. Not the whole rainbow, just a sparkle or shimmer. She stored each one in tiny glass bottles in her treehouse. One day, as Rosie wandered the forest after a fresh rain, she noticed something strange. There was no rainbow. Rosie tilted her head. That's never happened before. Just then, something caught her eye, a small, glowing stone on the forest path. It pulsed with rainbow colors. A rainbow rock? Rosie whispered. As soon as she touched it, whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the stone spoke. Dear finder of light, the rainbows are fading. Something's not right. To restore their glow so they can soar, seek the rainbow door behind Waterfall 4. Rosie's eyes widened. A quest. Rosie packed her bag with her sparkle bottles, a compass, a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, of course, and the glowing rock. She passed Waterfall 1, tiny and gentle, then 2, loud and splashing, Waterfall 3, misty and magical, and finally, Waterfall 4, hidden behind a wall of vines. Rosie brushed them aside and gasped. There stood a tall, shimmering door, made entirely of liquid rainbow. As she reached out, the rainbow rock floated from her pocket and glowed bright. The door rippled open. Inside was a huge dome, filled with cloud creatures who looked tired and droopy. One of them floated toward Rosie. Oh dear, it sighed. Our rainbow maker is broken. Without its light, we can't make rainbows anymore. Rosie peered at the giant crystal machine in the center. A gear was missing. Then she remembered the tiny sparkle bottles in her bag. Maybe, she said, what you need is a little light from the world. She poured her collected sparkles into the rainbow maker. It lit up with a fizz, a flash, and a foosh. Rainbows burst from the ceiling, flying out across the sky. The cloud creatures cheered. You've saved the skies. I live on the sand and whisper the sea. Put me to your ear, and I'll sing to thee. I start with an S and carry a song. Can you guess what I've been all along? Answer: seashell. Sophie was a curious sea otter with soft sandy fur, sparkling silver eyes, and a shell necklace she made herself. She lived on Showberry Island, where the waves hummed and palm trees swayed in the breeze. But her favorite thing of all was collecting seashells along the beach. One morning, Sophie found a seashell that shimmered like a pearl. When she held it to her ear, it didn't whisper. It sang, "When the tide is low and stars still gleam, follow the shell to find your dream." Sophie blinked. That wasn't just a song. It was a message. She packed a satchel with her lucky pebble, a sunberry snack, and of course, the singing shell. Sophie followed the tune as it changed melodies, soft and swirly, leading her along twisty trails of driftwood and glowing tide pools. Soon, she reached Sea Star Cove, a secret part of the island no one visited anymore. There, in the center, stood an enormous conch shell, carved with mysterious symbols. As Sophie approached, the singing seashell in her paw began to glow. "Speak your wish, and sing it true. If it's kind, the shell will answer you." Sophie thought hard. "I wish," she whispered, "for music to fill the island, not just for me, but for everyone." The big shell trembled from inside the conch. Waves of color and sound burst forth. The beach rocks turned into drums. The palm fronds strummed like harps, and the tide began to hum. Even the other animals, crabs, gulls, turtles, started dancing. Sophie's wish had unlocked Showberry Island's magical gift, a music that had been lost for years. She had brought it back with kindness and heart. And from that day on, every time someone found a special seashell, they heard not just the sea, but a song filled with dreams and hope. I stand up tall, with leaves so green. I give you shade and stay unseen. But what if one could talk to me? Guess my name, it starts with T. Answer: Trita B was a tortoise with a shiny brown shell and bright yellow spots that looked like tiny suns. He loved to explore slowly but curiously, especially places where others wouldn't go. He lived at the edge of Timberwood Forest, where creatures said an ancient tree could talk. Most animals thought it was a silly tale, but not Toby. One morning, he packed his explorer's pouch with crunchy leaf snacks and set off to find the talking tree. The forest whispered as he walked. Leaves rustled like secrets. Birds chirped in patterns. Suddenly, the wind stopped. Toby looked up and there it was, a towering tree with silver bark, branches like arms, and a single glowing leaf at the very top. Toby stepped closer. He gently tapped the trunk. "Nothing." Then he whispered, "Hello." The wind swirled. "Not many come to visit me," the tree said softly. "Why are you here, little tortoise?" Toby blinked. "You really do talk." "I do," said the tree, "but only to those who truly listen." Toby asked, "Why are you alone out here?" The tree sighed. "Long ago, I sang songs to the forest, but animals stopped visiting. They rushed and played, but never listened. So I went quiet." Toby looked at the glowing leaf. "What if I helped everyone hear you again?" The tree hummed gently. Bring back something from the forest that hears everything. Toby thought hard, then he smiled. He waddled back through the woods and found the wise owl, the one who listened all night. "Will you come with me?" Toby asked. The owl nodded and flew to the tree's top, gently perching on the glowing leaf. Suddenly, the tree sparkled. Its bark shimmered, and it began to sing a song so sweet the entire forest paused to listen. With little steps and hearts so wide, the quiet ones bring change inside. Animals came from all around to listen, sway, and smile. From that day on, animals visited the talking tree every week. They sat in silence, shared stories, and sang songs under its leaves. And Toby, he became known as the tortoise of Timberwood, the one who brought the forest back together by simply listening.